Hi, let's talk about pork rinds. I adore them. Now, not everyone does. So even if you don't love pork rinds, pay attention because you just might find that there's a pork rind perfection for you. Now, pork rinds, there are lots of different kinds and varieties. And I'm in the South, so we're really fortunate. They have them in the grocery stores here. So you may not have them in your local grocers. If you don't, you can order them online. They have them on Amazon. You can order them directly from the company, and I'll give you names of a couple of the companies that I like. The best place, this is our little secret, the best place to find pork rinds is a convenience store. Head into your local convenience store. Whenever we travel outside of our area, my husband stops to get gas, he knows that I'm going to go sneaking into the convenience store to see if I can find pork rinds. That's the way I found my favorite brand, and I don't make any money for endorsing these, but Carolina Country Cracklins. They have lots of different flavors. This just is their original flavor. And if you haven't paid a lot of attention to pork rinds, there are different kinds. This is kind of a big fluffy one. It's fairly large, rectangular. And they also make, this is called fried pork cracklins. And this is the, again, Carolina Country Cracklins brand, but they call this popcorn cracklins. And I'll show you these. They're really crispy and wonderful. See how crispy they are? Or I guess you can't see how crispy, but they're small and they're crunchier. They have some that have fat back on them. They're not my favorite. They're a little more strongly flavored. So the type of pork rind you get depends on what you're going to use it for. And there are lots of actual uses for pork rinds. Be careful about buying flavored pork rinds. Oftentimes they have barbecue flavor, salt and vinegar, things like that. They often have maltodextrin, which is a sugar. So I avoid the flavored pork rinds and just try to get the original and do my own thing with them. Always check the ingredients. You want pork rinds and salt. And you want pork rinds that have just been rendered. You don't want them fried in canola oil or soybean oil or anything undesirable. Again, local flavors. I really like Carolina Country Cracklins. You can order online. There's a Larry's pork rinds out of North Carolina, I think Hendersonville. They're really quite good. Baconettes is another flavor that we like. Utz pork rinds. You can generally get a big tub like this at your local Sam's Club, and they stay fresh for a pretty long time, and they're pretty generic flavor. Some, especially homemade ones, can have a really strong flavor, and if you don't care for them or you're going to use them in a recipe, I'd avoid those. So what do you do with pork rinds? Well, they make an awesome snack. So oftentimes we just eat them straight out of the bag. They also are great for dipping in salsa. And I know some friends who actually take them with them to Mexican restaurants and use them instead of the chips that are brought for them. You can also use them for nachos. So if you're at home and you're making a Mexican dish, you can put a layer of pork rinds down. You can also chop them up and use them as croutons, and that makes a great snack. Now, in the event that a bag gets left open and uneaten, you have a wonderful opportunity. Take your pork rinds, and I'm going to put these in my Ninja. And this is just a little small Ninja. These are kind of stale. Put the lid on there, pulse it up, and this is what I call, my family calls, Mom's gold dust. And I don't have the lid on properly, so it's not going to work right for me. But let me put the lid on, and I'm just going to pulse it up really quick. Makes a pork rind dust. Now, you can order this online at Amazon, and it's called pork rind dust, but I don't ever order it. I just keep a glass jar, and I'm sure something was in this jar. I'm not sure where I picked it up. It may have been coconut oil or coconut butter, but whenever they get stale, I process them just like I did there, make this yummy pork rind dust, and keep this in my cabinet. Now, what do I do with the pork rind dust? Remember I told you this is gold dust. And I've never ordered it online, but like I said, you can if you want it. What do I do with it? Well, I often mix it with Parmesan cheese, grated Parmesan, and you can use it as a coating. It's wonderful for using it for coating for chicken or fish, particularly cod. Dip it in some egg wash, dip it in the mixture of pork rind and Parmesan cheese, and you can put other seasonings, Old Bay or whatever fish seasonings you like, dill. Dip it in that, bake it in the oven, 350 degrees until it's nicely done and flaky, and that's wonderful. So it can be a coating for meats. It also is wonderful in casseroles. In the South, we love our casseroles. Squash casserole, broccoli casserole. I've used this instead of breadcrumbs, and everyone loved it. Even my husband, who doesn't like pork rinds, he's not a pork rind perfectionist like I am. We're trying to bring his palate along, but he really does like things that I make with pork rinds. Another thing you can do with a pork rind dust, believe it or not, you can make a pizza crust. It's actually quite good. I like it as a pizza crust made, and you can Google this and find it, and I can put the link on the comments for the video. You can Google, like I said, you can Google it. I like the pork rind pizza crust. Boy, say that 5 times fast. I like it best fresh. My husband likes it best warmed up. But what happens with it, it has a kind of a gelatinous quality, and so you'll see that, and it's a great binder. So if you need a binder, that reminds me, I use it in meatloaf, and I use it in meatballs as well. And again, people who don't like pork rinds, like my husband and son, love the meatballs, love the meatloaf. So don't tell them what I'm doing with this. Another thing that you can do, believe it or not, is you can use pork rind dust for pancakes. It's true. Pork rind pancakes. You can Google it, and I have my own recipe that I developed with it. The recipe that I used first didn't call for other flours. I like to mix this with a little bit of coconut flour and a little bit of almond flour, but this gives a really nice texture to pork rinds, and it gives it almost a French toast flavor. And again, I just mix whatever stale to make my pork rind dust. So if you've overlooked pork rinds, please don't. They're humble, and they're tasty, and they're just fantastic. So whatever flavor you like, give pork rinds a chance.